week 5 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few wide receivers I looked at on the wire this week. The first guy is Jefferson of the Los Angeles Rams. So right here, each and every week, it looks like a Los Angeles Ram wide receiver makes this list. Last week it was Deshaun Jackson, and this week it's Jefferson Jr. here. So Jefferson had a big game in week 1 versus Chicago, 2 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. Weeks 2 and 3, he didn't really do much, but in week 4, he reemerged once again with a big ball game. 6 catches, 90 yards, and a touchdown. So in this game, not much happened for this Los Angeles Ram offense. Cooper Kupp, he didn't do much. Tyler Higbee, he got good targets, but they got blown out in this game, 37-20, with a Los Angeles Rams versus the Cardinals. So right here, it's still an explosive offense. Next week, a Thursday night game in Seattle. What a ball game that's going to be, in my opinion, between these two teams. But right here, Jefferson, he's a guy to definitely keep an eye on. He's a good playmaker, and he's their third receiver for a reason, and they let Josh Reynolds go in free agency this season. So right here, Jefferson, available in 95% of fantasy leagues. And if you want to give him an ad, I definitely would this week. The next wide receiver is A.J. Green of the Arizona Cardinals. So A.J. Green, I mentioned him as a pickup last week. And once again, he came through with a good ball game here in week 4, was A.J. Green versus the Rams in this ball game. He came up finishing 5 catches, 67 yards, and a touchdown. And right now, the last 3 weeks here for Green, he's had double-digit fantasy points in PPR leagues. Week 2 versus Minnesota, 3 catches, 44 yards, and a touchdown. In week 3 at Jacksonville, 5 catches, 112 yards. So he's being very productive here as a third, fourth option in this offense here for the Arizona Cardinals. And this Cardinal team, they're very scary on offense. They're undefeated at 4-0. They took care of the Rams easy. And in week 5, I think they'll do similar things once again here versus the San Francisco 49ers. And right now, A.J. Green, he's available still in 76% of fantasy leagues. And I definitely would give him an ad. Kyler Murray likes him. It's another weapon. And he's got all single coverage on him with DeAndre Hopkins in that offense. And obviously, Kyler Murray with his ability to run. And also Christian Kirk is a deep threat as well. The next wide receiver I looked at this week is Darnell Mooney of the Chicago Bears. So Mooney last week, I said to drop him because he did nothing the first 3 weeks of the season. But week 4 versus Detroit, he had a huge fantasy day. 5 catches, 125 yards, and even 1 rush attempt for 10 yards. So week 5 at Vegas, another ball game where I think this bad team could put up a decent offensive game. And if David Montgomery is going to be out of the lineup, I think they're going to use Mooney in all types of ways here as a gadget guy or a guy for jet sweeps and stuff here. So right here, Justin Fields, he had confidence in Mooney in this game. Allen Robinson, once again, didn't do much in week 4 versus Detroit. So Mooney right now, I said drop him last week. But if you're in the deeper leagues and after the good game he had here, he's available in 62% of fantasy leagues. I would give him a shot. Is Darnell Mooney. The next wide receiver is Jamison Crowder of the New York Jets. So the Jets got off the schneid with their first victory of the season. And Crowder, he came back for his first game of the year here. And this guy, he just produces, especially in PPR leagues throughout the year. 7 catches, 61 yards, and a touchdown on 9 targets. So right here, he led all Jet wide receivers in targets. Him and Corey Davis, a good 1-2 combo it was in this ball game versus the Tennessee Titans. In week 5, another great matchup for the Jets indoors at the Atlanta Falcons. And this ball game's in London. It's going to be an early one. And Zach Wilson, he felt comfortable here with Jamison Crowder. So Crowder versus a weak Atlanta defense, I think he can make some noise and make some plays in this game. And he's available in 81% of fantasy leagues. And I would give him an ad in the 5th and final receiver I looked at on the wire this week's Randall Cobb of the Green Bay Packers. So Cobb was another wide receiver I said to drop last week. But once again, I was proved wrong here. Randall Cobb had a big ball game and more of a role in this one versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, especially without their Scantling out of this game here for the Packers. 5 catches, 69 yards, and 2 touchdowns on 6 targets. So right here, Randall Cobb still has it. He has some juice, and obviously Aaron Rodgers has played with him so many years, and they haven't missed a beat even though he was gone for the last few seasons with Dallas and the Texans. But right here, good fantasy day, 23.90 fantasy points in PPR leagues, and he's definitely worth an ad in more deeper leagues than your 10 and 12 team league. So that's a few wide receivers I looked at on the waiver wire heading into week 5 of the fantasy football season.